Hello, and welcome to the Empower Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman. And this will actually be a solo episode with just me here today. This is a topic that I wanted to explore with all of you on my own, something that I'm doing my own personal reflection and development on. And so today is about really answering the question for yourself: is your heart open or closed to your partner? And then today I want to explore really 5 ways you can keep your heart more open. Now, where is this coming from? We teach, and obviously you as a podcast listener know that we talk a lot about skills and tools, largely communication, conflict resolution, self-regulation, repair, all of those particular skills. And we have these logical frameworks to really help you and to help all of us as couples, navigate the times when we have upsets. There are emotional disturbances, there's tension, we do more damage to each other. And ultimately, we believe that having that kind of structure, gives you a way to do that scenario differently, especially in the conflict cycle when emotion is running high. Now, with all that being said, we don't talk about this part too much. Is your heart open or closed? And this is different from what you're actually doing. So I know you've answered this question for yourself in your head, but I want you to think a little bit deeper, regardless of what you do for your partner. Because if you're like me at all, we have our responsibilities, we have our agreements, and you have integrity and you follow through at a high level, right? And that's no matter what I'm feeling in our marriage between Jocelyn and I will always get those things done. And in some regard, you've heard us say you don't want to be acting on these impulses when you're upset, right? You really want to act from your commitments. But as we take this a little bit further, you want to start to notice that you can be fulfilling on your responsibilities, but at the same time, your heart can be closed off to your partner. And really, the point of being married, to be in a relationship over the long term, is that your satisfaction and your fulfillment is high. And along with that means that there'll be a high love account. So you'll feel love and connection. There'll be joy. There'll be understanding. There'll be partnership and collaboration. But there's got to be more of that love and connection, that joy between you and your partner. And that is where your open heart allows for that experience. When your heart is closed, you don't have that experience. When it's closed, you feel disconnected. Usually, the longer you're disconnected, the more you make assumptions, you make up projections, you start to feel the things your partner's doing are personal to you, so you pull away from them more. And that's just not what marriage is about. If marriage is either actions that bring you connection or disconnection, then your heart being open brings all of those positive things, all the connection, all the positive emotional experience, and your heart being closed brings you more limited, constrained, restricted. You can start to feel resentful. You can start to feel not cared for, not prioritized. And so that's the main part here, right? You can do the responsibilities you have in your life and in your marriage, but you can do it with a closed heart. And that does not lead to the type of emotional marriage experience you want to be having. Okay, so now let's get into 5 steps. And I was reminded of this idea as I was reading for myself. I finished a couple of books, and so I'm like, oh, what next? So I went back to a book that we read a long time ago, The Untethered Soul. In there, it talks about these emotional disturbances and your heart being open and closed. Now, here's the encouraging thing. You don't actually have to do anything to keep your heart open. You could say that having an open heart, especially towards your romantic partner, is a natural state for your spirit or soul. And so all we then have to do is commit to not closing our heart down. Okay, so now what do we do with that? Well, we need to then recognize what external events have you close off your partner or just close down to your partner. So I invite you to really look there first. What are these external events? Now, if you don't do anything further, you might be stuck with, oh, well, here are all the things that my partner needs to change and stop doing because here are when this happens, when they do this, it closes my heart down. That's not where we're going here today. That's just the first step. Okay, what are the external events? Technically, the third step I'm saying here is now looking at or having a list of these external events, you have to do the internal reflection to understand why this event is causing you to close your heart down. Why is this emotional disturbance or this upset? Why are you choosing to allow that for you to make the decision to close your heart? I really want to get you and really all of us to own this. You closing your heart down is your choice. You're making the decision to do that. It's not from an external event. The external event is a representation of something within yourself, a disturbance, a fear, a concern, a worry that you choose to close your heart down and close it off to your partner. Now, the other choice is rather than, because I know it doesn't seem like a choice, it happens automatic and it happens fast, but it still is a choice. The more awareness you bring, the more space, the more you recognize when this is happening, then you can make a different choice. And really, that choice is because you can't ignore it. What you have to do is you have to recognize that you're feeling the emotional disturbance. And I want to give you an example of one in my own life. And you allow it, you allow yourself to feel it. And then in doing that, you can kind of allow it to just pass by, where it could just be like you watching a movie. It could just be an object. It could be an event. It could be a moment in time that you just kind of watch go by. Or you can make the choice to do more work to resolve that issue within yourself. So I don't want to cover the steps to do that specifically. That's a longer process, but you might notice that, man, there's a few things that happen. I really recognize where that's coming from. It's a place of feeling rejected, feeling disrespected, and that's a pattern. That's recurring for you. It shows up in multiple external circumstances, and you realize that's some deeper work that you have to do. So again, we're not going to go down that path exactly, but for me, I really noticed that when I feel that there's a conversation being had, there's a dialogue between Jocelyn and I, where I'm interpreting her saying that the responsibilities and expectations for me are imbalanced or that there's a different standard. And I'm not saying that there actually is, right? This is how it's landing, how I'm perceiving it, that I feel that the standard for me is higher, that I'm being held to a higher standard of my responsibilities and expectations. This is a place that has me start to close my heart down or off. Also, when I feel judged or reprimanded, specifically, and it's funny that I'm talking about, and we're having, I guess we're talking, me and you listening, even though there's not a dialogue. But when I feel that I'm being then held to a particular standard, more so that I'm being reprimanded because she's interpreting that I have a certain energy, right? So an example of this is, I'm not, I don't have a high energy. I'm not reactive. I'm not labeling her. I'm not putting her down. I'm like handling my responsibilities and quote unquote doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And yet she feels from me that, well, basically that my heart is closed, right? And that is going to show up differently, that I'm a little bit less engaged. I'm not, initiating love deposits. I'm kind of doing my own thing. And to be honest, I that's how I feel. I feel like well, if this is how you're going to judge me and this is the standard you're going to hold me to, then you know what? Let me just do my own thing, handle my responsibilities, not interact as much throughout the day. And when because here's the thing with partners, we all know when the energy is off from our partner. But again, I'm really trying to give you an example for myself. I feel it's unfair that I get judged that that's happening within me because again, we all know when our partner's energy is off. But when I'm perceiving she's making a comment about, well, your energy shouldn't be off, I feel judged. Like, what kind of standard is that? That I have to live within myself 100% of the time that there's no emotional disturbance, regardless of how my actions, my tone, my behavior is. I feel like it's so unfair and that has me close my heart down further. And I already gave you some examples. I just really want to disconnect. I want to do my own thing. I'm not mean. I'm not typically a very reactive person in my communication. I just again start to do my own thing. And even if she does ask me questions, my answers will probably be short. And of course, she could feel that it's coming from a frustrated attitude. Now, sitting here with you, I almost feel justified. Like I shouldn't be held to that standard. It's an impossible standard. I've even said that to her. But the bottom line here and the thing I'm committing to, and I want to eventually invite you into committing to with me, is that it's just not worth it to close our heart down. Starting today, going into the next day, is it going to happen? Yes, because we're doing the work. And maybe it's the lifetime journey to notice where emotional disturbances are coming up and we close our heart down. But again, it's just not how I want to live. And it's not how you want to live. It's not how you want to experience your marriage. You want to be in a place where both of your hearts are open because that's where love and connection and partnership and understanding and vulnerability and trust, that's where that lives with an open heart. So outside of yourself, where we're at is we've covered three steps. You don't do anything to open your heart, you just commit to not closing your heart. Second, what external events have me close my heart down to my partner? Third, it's not about them. What internal work or reflection do I need to do to understand why I close my heart down in those scenarios? And now moving to the fourth, I need to make the commitment to, let those pass by. And I do have to change, I have to do something different. So I want to withdraw. I want to go do my own thing, but I have to choose to keep my heart open and stay in communication, stay engaged, continue to make some initiation and effort and deposits to my partner's love account, and to ultimately have the presence, be present with each other to allow for the love and connection to be there. Now, I have a tendency to maybe take the nuances too far. As I'm talking to you, I would want to say that you still get to communicate what you need, but still notice, is my heart closed when I'm trying to express what I need, or is it open? And it's going to be felt and received from your partner much different. So again, this fourth part is about your outside behavior, your actions is to make a change to that from what you would normally do if your heart was closing down. So then really the fifth step here is the invitation. So take all this in today, and my invitation to myself and to you, and I really appreciate that you're here listening all the way through on this one. This is an important topic, to commit to not closing your heart. So once you go through all of these points, you make this commitment to yourself that when you feel the impulse to close, that you let the feeling happen, you observe it, you either let it move through or you make a note that this is the work that you need to do on your own. And certainly, you can have very connecting conversations with your partner if they're intentional. And let's say tomorrow morning you sit down with your partner and say, let's discuss with each other. Let's have an intentional conversation about this idea that I heard from the Freemans on the podcast about opening and closing our heart. Hey, here's what I noticed about myself. And so long as you keep it about the choice that you're making to close, not about what they're doing to force you to close, this can be a very enlightening conversation. At the end of this, living with an open heart. This does not mean that outside circumstances are always good. It doesn't mean that you're flawless in your communication. We just did a web class on before, during, and after stages. There's communication that prevents conflict. There is de escalating when you feel tension and not getting into the conflict cycle. And then there's repair. So that's still going to happen, right? We're not going to be flawless. It's not that things aren't going to happen or that we won't let ourselves get into the conflict cycle or have longer argument hangovers where we could be repairing faster. Like, all that's going to happen. But can you do all that with an open heart? Can you have outside circumstances out of your control and frustrations and things with parenting or finances or work or friend relationships or your family relationships? Things can go badly, things can go wrong. Trauma can happen. You can experience loss and grief. But we could choose to live life with our partner with an open heart. And again, the open heart doesn't mean you're just experiencing positive emotions and joy, but you can have an open heart. And in that space, you can allow for the vulnerability, you can allow for the understanding of sadness or grief, and your partner, if you're familiar with this term, can hold the space for you. They can listen to you, they can hold you, physically and, psychologically and spiritually. They can be there for you, they can support you, they can ask what you need. And again, marriage is not about a life where things don't go wrong or are out of your control. But you can live in a space with an open heart and still have that level of connection and love there with each other. And so you might be thinking this is a big undertaking, and really it is. It's the main work to do for a marriage. So let me give you 2 other resources to help you on this journey, and these are our level 1 and level 2 30-day couples challenges that are starting March 1st. Now, for those of you that have heard about these challenges before, level 1 is the Prioritizing Us challenge. And the main focus is that over the 30 days, you will get 1 email every morning that will focus on communication tips and connection activities so that you will fill the love accounts between the 2 of you. And oftentimes, just having a higher love account can be something that more naturally keeps your heart open. So if that's the next step for you, to feel as if keeping your heart more open is easier, maybe you just need a higher love account. Now, for others of you, it may be that things from the past are not repaired, and that's exactly what our level 2 challenge is. It's the Rebuilding Us challenge. And so similar, you're going to get an email every morning for 30 days, but the focus is going to be on repairing and rebuilding. So starting to look at some of the past events, where those hurts come from, and gradually leading you into repair conversations that are going to remove these emotional disturbances from your heart that have been there from past events. And so if you feel like that's the next step for you, I would invite you to check out both of those links. You can go to meetthefreemans.com/links, also be in the show notes. You can choose level 1, level 2, depending on whether just adding to your love account or repairing from things you feel is a better step to start to keep your heart more open. Obviously, as we talked about here today, to better help you not close your heart. As we close here, and I so appreciate all of you being on, listening to this topic. I think if all of us could take on this commitment to live with an open heart, I think it would dramatically change your experience of your marriage and your life and all of your relationships. And if we all did that together, I think the society we live in could really be amazing. Now, that's a grand idea. So all we need to really do right now is focus on living with an open heart with our partners. So thank you for being here. Love all of you and can't wait to talk with you on the next episode.